post office and to work with Comcast and to work with a gentleman who stands beside me day in and day out. His name is Reverend Milton White. And he called me one day and he says, I got a lady on the telephone who wants to have an exhibit at the Museum for Rosa Parks. I said, what are you talking about, Willis? And he says, it's real. It's really her niece. And she's on the phone and she wants to talk to you. I says, well, is your stamp coming out? She says, yes. She didn't know when exactly it's going to be issued. Talk to the post office. Call the post office, Mr. Hunter. They don't know when it's going to be issued. We just don't know. Well, let's put it on the calendar anyhow to make sure that we can put together an event to do an unveiling of the Rosa Parks stamp. And we met with Shirley's sister, and we talked to her for the last 4 or 5 weeks to try to get her to come here to downtown Newtonville to be part of this program. It is downtown. Where's Uptown? So Shirley agreed to fill in for her cousin, sister. I keep getting them mixed up, I think. Anyhow, Shirley is here today, flown in from Kentucky, and she was met at Philadelphia International Airport by one of our board members, Brad Jackson, who had another engagement with him. But this gives me fantastic pleasure to introduce a lady who touched the hand of Rosa Parks, her aunt. Imagine her having her as present. When I shared this story with the Atlantic City Press, they were so excited about this particular story that they put it on the front page of the Atlantic City Press, top full. So that's very, very important to get that kind of ink from the media. And having these two other great artists here, of course, Glenn Reed, and of course, Paul Gibson, just combinating all together, bringing this wonderful exhibit together. The exhibit's going to be up until May 1st. And if you purchase, I'm a huckster at art. My father was a preacher, a PK kid. So we have envelopes that we're trying to raise money for the museum. Bob Ralph, did I introduce you before? I did. Okay. So we have envelopes they're called cachet envelopes. And the envelopes have a picture of Rosa Parks, and it said, I attended the unveiling of the Rosa Parks stamp at the African American Museum in Newtonville, New Jersey. It's going to be a historic piece of material. Well, here's one here. You're going to be the first maybe 200 people in the world. Now, people are going to be calling the Newtonville post office for the next 30 days. And they can call and mail an envelope to the post office. The post office will put a stamp on it and mail it back to them in a separate envelope. These are collector's items. I think it's as collective as a moon rock. I used to sell moon rocks back in the They're $8.95. Thousands of them. I used to put them on an airplane and fly them in from California. It was a little box and had stone in it. They called moon rocks at $8.95. And I literally sold thousands. I paid for my trips to California, all over the world. Selling moon rocks. I sold thousands. People are so gullible. But this is not a thing of a huckster trying to hustle you. I'm trying to tell you that this is a piece of history. I think if you bought 10 of these and made a $10 donation for each one of them to the museum, you'd be helping the museum with a lousy $100 a year or 5 years. But by the same token, you'll have something for your kids, your grandkids, and for your family. A cancellation, it says canceled in Newtonville, New Jersey on February the 9th. You can't do that anyplace else in the world except Newtonville. So buy as many as you can, as often as you can, and we need to sell these today. We have the postcards are only $1, then we have the programs are, and you know what might happen? Rosa Parks' niece might sign this for you. Can you imagine what it would be worth then? Can you really imagine? Okay. So I want you guys to support the African American Museum from your pocketbook. We don't take credit cards, we take cash and checks. Okay? So if you don't have $10, I'll loan you $10 on Friday. Damn money back.
What interest?
Huh? 10%. Got a question back here, John?
Yes, I need $10 so I can buy it.
Ask Reverend White, he's my radio. All right, so much for the, I see my good friend just came in from Atlantic City, Ken Hill. I see Ken and something. I can't mention everyone's names this year. I'm just so delighted. And I have to thank Ann. Ann put together the postcard, she put together the newsletter, she put together all these wonderful things that we do here at the museum. Ann, would you stand a second, please? Thank you. So what do I want you to do when you walk out of this room? Help the museum. Can you do that? Can you help a brother out? Okay. So much for my funny tone. I'm going to introduce a lady here who doesn't need an introduction. Shirley McCauley is the niece of the late Rosa Parks. If Rosa Parks was alive today, how old do you think she'd be? 100, my brother. We are very thankful to have ShopRite down in Vineland in University Township. Reverend White called them yesterday and asked them would they make a sheet cake of Rosa Parks with a picture of her stamp on it, and they said yes. And the cake is over there, and we're not selling this for $10 a slice. We'll put the donation jar in front of the cake. We'll leave it up to you. We're not going to ask for any money or anything like that. But we need to raise money to keep doing what we do. We're a non-profit. We're a 503c corporation, and we need to raise money throughout the course of the year. And this is one of our fundraising events. With no further to do, would everyone please stand to welcome Shirley McCauley.
Celebration for Auntie Rosa. That's what I always known her as. Unlike many of you, growing up, I didn't know who Rosa Parks was. I knew who Auntie Rosa was, but not Rosa Parks. So they were two different people. And I grew up in an era when grown folks were talking, they sent us away. So there were a lot of times we got sent away. And so I come from a very large family. My father was her brother. My father's Sylvester McCauley. And there are 13 of us. There are 8 girls and 5 boys. My oldest brother passed away a couple of years ago, so there's 12 of us, and they're like, I'd say close to 50 grandchildren, and we have, is it got put up to my yeah.
How you know? How you know?
And so, what was I saying? 50. Yeah, there's over 30 great grandchildren, so there's quite a few of us. And recently we got to reunite at the Henry Ford Museum, which it was absolutely breathtaking because we got a chance to interact with the bus.
Oh, wow.
So you got a chance to go on the actual bus, and I actually sat in the seat that she sat in, and it was quite moving. So I even argued with one of the
bus drivers?
No. One of the hosts there, because she was telling me the story of how everything unfolded on that day, and I said, she was saying she sat in the front of the bus. I said, no, that was a photo op. she actually sat in the last seat for black people, and that's where the situation took place. So, but I'm here. I'm very thankful to Mr. Hunter and Reverend White for, and my sister Sheila. She's really beside herself that she couldn't come. But I'm very thankful that you wanted to invite me to represent our family and Rosa Parks for, and to unveil this commemorative stamp. I think it is one of the most beautiful portraits of her, besides the one myself and my brother did. Rosa Parks. Yeah, there's quite a number of visual artists in our family. And you'll see my brother has created a rendition of Rosa Parks for we're putting together a commemorative book. It's a spiritual book. It's called Lessons for My Family, Remembering Rosa Parks. And in this book, we talk about Rosa Parks, not as the public figure, but as actually the surrogate mother for us, and the woman she was to us. As many of you know, she did not have her own children, so she clamored around us, or we clamored around her. And she loved us, and she loved many, many other children. So she was very sweet that way. So we put together memories that we had of her. What I'd like to do is I'd like to read a couple of excerpts from the book. It hasn't been unveiled yet, but is it okay?
Yes, sure.
Okay. I want to show you the picture that my brother Ashi Bear did. It's in the glass case out front. You'll see it. But one of my nieces wrote about Rosa Parks, her great aunt, and this is what she had to say in her memory. She says, it's titled My First Life Coach. For as long as I can remember, I felt very proud to be part of the McCauley family. Between Auntie Rosa and my father, Ashi Bear, we were always well entertained. My family and I frequently visited her cozy house. This is when our relationship felt the most personal and meaningful to me. I would eat fresh cherries from the table and brush her long silver hair as we talked. I looked forward to these visits. This was a pleasant sanctuary for me, like home away from home. Out in the world, on the other hand, Auntie Rosa was always very clear that I would have to prepare myself. Being a woman is not easy, she cautioned. She wanted me to remember that life is not a game. At a young age, I received these thoughts to digest in ways that would leave me thinking. It might have seemed like sophisticated conversation for a child in elementary school to process, but she actually never talked over my head. Another time, when my brother attended a traditional African rites of passage ceremony, Auntie Rosa took the opportunity to share women's elder wisdom with me. She told me to always claim my voice by speaking my mind, and to be strong and keep my goals in sight. These talks were like Auntie Rosa's version of tough love. Nothing that was meant to punish or chastise, but instructions to help mentally condition me for the future that she knew lay ahead. Her path was one that most people could not have traveled. She was a veteran of hard times and a true authority on how to get through them. I was the baby she'd met and watched grow from the crib. Her example made big contributions to my life. She was my grand aunt, but I also found in her a mentor because of her motivating yet gentle spirit. Auntie Rosa had been born poor and grown rich with influence. She had been treated like a peasant and then walked with a king. It wouldn't be too long before I grew up and I learned that she was right when she said being a woman wasn't easy. remembering her presence and her words has given me one of the greatest advantages. Her name is Zakia. I wanted to share something with you. I wrote something in here too, but I'm just going to tell you what I just give you a brief synopsis. When I was growing up, all I heard about the Montgomery bus boycott was that some lady sat down and wouldn't give her her seat, and then Martin Luther King took up the banner and he started the civil rights movement. Well, as I began to grow older and realize that who my aunt was, I became curious because I couldn't seem to fathom how she did one thing and then Martin Luther King did everything else. So I asked her one day, to tell me exactly what really happened. And I didn't take into account that she had been asked this question every day since this occurred. And actually, the Montgomery bus boycott started a year before I was born. So I was toddling around when everything was about to come to a head anyway. So she said, okay, Shirley, what happened was this particular bus driver and my aunt had issues. She didn't like him, he didn't like her. So what he would do many times, if you were a black person, you had to step on the front of the bus, put your dime in the coin box, step off the bus, walk around to the back door, and then enter.
Did you know that?
Okay, you knew that? Okay, so this particular bus driver would oftentimes, when Auntie Rosa would step off the bus after paying, he would take off. He would keep going. He wouldn't stop her to stop. He wouldn't pick her up. He was just a really mean guy. Okay, we got that into account. Okay, and also Auntie Rosa was the secretary for the NAACP. So they have been working diligently trying to figure out a method, a strategy for civil rights, because there were so many issues that were going on in the community. So many rights were being violated. Of course, the lynchings were at an all-time high. People were taken away and never seen again. People's could be fired. That were all kinds of things. Land was being stolen. So this particular issue with the Montgomery bus the bus system, was one of the worst. So they have been strategizing. They have sent people in to challenge this law that black people could not sit in certain places in the bus. So there were, I think there were like 3 people who attempted to challenge this law before Auntie Rosa. There were 2 men and a woman. All of them were taken away, arrested. Nothing ever happened. So I don't know this for sure. I've never challenged Auntie Rosa with this, but I think it just happened. She did not plan for this to happen, but this was in her heart, that this was wrong, because she knew that she could see that other people were being mistreated, and this law was not just. So on this particular day, Auntie Rosa went to there was a section behind the back door. The seat parallel to the back door, those 2 seats represented where the black section was, which was on that bus. There were 2 seats, and then there were the 2 longer seats on the sides. Yeah, the benches, and then the one in the back. That was it. This particular day, the white person that got on the bus, there were plenty of seats for him to sit. But he chose to sit in front of Auntie Rosa, who you know, all the black section was filled, people were standing already. So the law was, if you were black or if you were a white person, you couldn't have someone black sitting behind you or opposite you. So everybody, so he sat in the last seat for the white section, okay? So that meant that Auntie Rosa and her, the person sitting next to her had to get up, and then the people on the other side had to get up too. So the three of them got up, and Auntie Rosa looked at him, and he said, well, she said, well, what?
Great.
You know, she said, so she just sat there. She didn't say anything else, just sat there. So he went and told the bus driver. At that time, bus drivers could carry a weapon. And handcuffs. He had handcuffs too. He came back and he said, you know, called her a certain name. And he said, you have to get up. She said, I don't have to do anything. She said that she wanted to find out exactly what her rights were, because it was unclear. You know, just because I'm black, you get to tell me what I can do, what I cannot do. I paid my money just like the rest of these people. So that's how it started. That's how it unfolded. After that, I asked her, I said, well, weren't you afraid? Because people were beaten, they were, you know, jailed for, you know, long periods of time trying to protest this time. She said no. She said they didn't put handcuffs on me. They did. When I got down to the jail, they gave me coffee, they gave me a sandwich. I said, you were not afraid? She said no. She said, when you're in that state, when you get to that place where you have had enough, then all these fears, they dissipate. And what I want to say to each and every one of you, there's a Rosa Parks in all of us. You know, there's a Rosa Parks in your family. They may not be glorified on stamp, or there may not be a household name, but you have somebody in your family, and it might be you, who has stood up for what is right.
That's right.
And not without hurting anyone else. She didn't have any kind of weapons. She didn't have a gang with her. It was just her. She represents the spirit of hope that we have in this country, okay? That we have for our children. And she always, always talked about our children because they are our future. And we have got to do better for them. We are slacking in a whole lot of places. We have got to do better for them because they need us. They need our hope. We need to teach them how to stay in school, not in jail.
That's right.
It's too big. Their jails going up just like McDonald's. We need to get our children out of the jail, out of the streets, and teach them that there is hope. That we can do this. One little lady turned the whole racist, segregated system around. And she opened the door for all of us to walk through so that we can have a choice, so we can enjoy our freedom to make that choice. She did that for us. So we got to turn to the Rosa Parks in us and do it for each other. And I thank you for your time.